Hey guys, and welcome back to another Lost Bits video right here on TetraBitGaming, the series where we explore video game content that goes unused, altered, or normally unseen. Fall Guys has caught the gaming sphere by storm this month, so this minigame battle royale full of beams probably needs no introduction. This is going to be a pretty solid video. I can't believe I thought it was going to be a short one. We're talking unused graphics, scrapped concepts, and more. Also, as this video is being made on the month of release, please do keep in mind that things can change and some stuff could get added and or removed in future updates. But with all that said, it's time to waddle, jump, dive, and grab our way to some lost bits. Okay, so first up, I saw this blowing up on Twitter a few days ago, and I actually saw it before, but I didn't really think much of it at the time. And this is that in a data mine, some have discovered that in the files of the game is a plugin for the Nintendo Switch software development kit. The discovery of this plugin has led many to believe that Fall Guys was at one point planned to also come to the Nintendo Switch, in addition to the PC and PS4 platforms the game is currently on. Whether this was changed due to a partial exclusivity deal with Sony or some other reason isn't 100% clear, but I know many fans are still holding out hope for the game to come over to the Switch. I feel like the Switch would be a great platform for this game, so I do hope it happens in the future sometime. Also, yeah, sorry Xbox One gamers, nothing similar to suggest the game is coming to the Xbone, but hopefully it does too. Alright, then seen in a behind the scenes video are some early concept sketches of the Fall Guy designs. Here we can see how the designers tried out and scrapped several different designs, like different leg styles, smaller heads, longer arms, and more. I gotta say, I'm pretty happy with the design that was chosen, cause some look like they'd be pretty dang creepy looking. Next up, let's talk about a few things that were changed from earlier builds to the final release we have today. First, and I guess most notable, is that according to an E3 2019 interview as well as the reveal trailer, more players were once planned to start in each game. Now currently the games start with a maximum of 60 players, but the reveal trailer and the developer in that one interview actually confirmed that it was apparently once planned to be 100 players starting, as typical in some battle royales. And a much larger elimination screen than the one we have in this version of the game could also be seen for a short moment in some early gameplay videos. Though it's unclear why this change was made, I already feel crowded with 64 players in early rounds, so I can see how adding another 36 could be too many. Anyways, next, let's take a look at how some of the minigames have changed from earlier builds of the game. Starting off, we have the minigame Doordash, which, as you can see from this prototype footage of the game, used to look quite different. Besides the players moving at a really low frame rate, obviously the graphics are really basic here. Most of the textures are simple colors, and the breakable doors are incredibly basic as well. This minigame actually got a facelift for E3 2019, which also looks different than the one we have today. The most obvious change is, again, just the entire look of the stage. The main flooring is different, the arrows in front of the doors are different, and of course, the doors have a completely different aesthetic. Instead of these pink doors with big eyes, the doors here, while still going for that open mouth aesthetic, were green with small eyes and had a lot more, I guess, of a Aztec looking theme. These segments also have vines growing on them, and we can see the trees on the sides are much bigger here. When ran through, the doors also crashed open to several small pieces rather than just the 3 as seen in the current release. Another big change is that when players chose the wrong door in this build, the eyes on the doors would be covered in big red X's to indicate that it was the incorrect choice. In the current version of the game, there's absolutely no indication that it is a wrong door, other than players fumbling in front of it. I guess this change was made to make it less obvious for other players, especially those that aren't paying closer attention. The next minigame up is Fall Mountain, and just like Doordash, this game was first shown off at a really early prototype stage. Here again, the graphics are really basic, and one of the more notable things are that the balls here aren't spheres, but rather a much more polygonal object. There also appears to be another layout that was made for Fall Mountain as seen here, and as of yet, this one hasn't been implemented. Then once again, we are brought to some more early E3 2019 gameplay footage. In this footage here, we can see several color and aesthetic changes from the final version, like the tips of the cannons were gold instead of silver, the conveyor belt near the top was purple instead of yellowish, parts of the floor were different colors, they removed the pink arrows on the sides here, the arrows and again colors at the start were different, and most notably, I think, is that the cannons shot out some weird-looking polygonal shapes with some half-spheres on it, rather than the big yellow balls as seen in the current release. These balls, referred to as boulders in an interview, look infinitely more terrifying and unpredictable here. Then, at the top of the mountain, the prized crown was once see-through, almost holographic looking, whereas in the current release, it is opaque. Also above the crown in the early footage is a crudely drawn graphic of the crown, I guess to highlight where exactly it was when looking from the bottom. And this was unfortunately removed for release, though I kinda like it, so I think it's a shame this was cut. Next up we have Egg Scramble, or Egg Grab as it used to be known as. Firstly here, one big change we can see is the team colors. The blue and red team definitely appear to be more so turquoise and magenta respectively. Then other major differences once again involve the look of the stage, including having a simpler style here. The middle section is black rather than purple. The middle of the middle was also once lit up. The background used to be a dark void. The eggs had brown spots instead of orange. And most notable, I think, is that each team's scoring area was not only lit up, but they also had a unique animal head encasing it. A cat for magenta, what appears to be a rabbit for yellow, and finally a frog for the turquoise team. What's weird is that even in a later build where the graphics and colors were updated, the animal heads were still seen, so they must have gotten swapped out later in the game's development. All I know is that I really like these animal heads way more than just the generic baskets we ended up getting, that's for sure. Minigame that saw a slight change from what we got is Dizzy Heights. Basically, the only major difference seen in this short clip is that the two colored balls used to have a rocky texture that I guess was scrapped. I guess probably since these rocks just don't seem to fit the rest of the game's really colorful art style. These were also seen in some earlier footage of the Slime Climb minigame too. And additionally for Slime Climb, there's also this early footage where we can see an early version of the minigame, as well as a few layout changes we can see that were also scrapped, which look quite different. In fact, apparently Slime Climb was actually slated to be scrapped from the game until the developers finally felt they had it the way they wanted it, closer to release I guess. Then some other minigames that had some changes include Hoarders, in which at this point, the color of the ball didn't actually change to the color in which section it was in, as well as Block Party, which had almost a completely different theme. Rather than the style we got, which basically just matches the rest of the game, this early gameplay shows the minigame in a cool lit up disco-like arena at night, where the lower bars were also lit up. It honestly looks really cool. This is another change that I think wasn't necessarily for the better. Additionally, there's also a short clip of footage from a really early point in development in which Block Party looked incredibly basic. I mean, at this point in the game's development, it basically just consisted of simply colored, simple rectangles moving towards the player. Now, I don't know about you, but I'd say the game has come quite a long way since this point. And now, onto the last early version of a minigame that was shown off in early gameplay, Tail Tag. Definitely not my favorite. Anyways, the arena for this minigame in this build is completely different than any seen in the current release. There was just like a hill area to climb in the back corner here, and then the rest of the stage consists of seemingly randomly placed obstacles like these pillars, which also appear to be an early design that was changed here, as well as various slopes, seesaw platforms, and the spinning cylinders. This stage certainly looks like and has the attributes of a typical testing map as we've seen throughout this series. Anyways, there was also an updated version of the minigame seen in some gameplay footage where the layout of the stage matches that of the final version, though the colors, textures, as well as the surrounding background appear to still be different. The most notable differences here are the middle area is different, the level geometry has more pronounced vertices, and the edge of the stage is quite a bit different. Oh yeah, and before I forget, in general, in most of the early footage I showed, we can also see that the timer in the top right is still just a basic placeholder at this point, and this was obviously scrapped and updated for release. Now, although some of the things I mentioned were changed since they seem to just be temporary placeholders like some of the arrows and early versions of the flooring and stuff, it's entirely possible that in the future seasons of the game, stuff like the scrapped tail tag stage or the different aesthetic for Doordash could be added in some form. Like, they just announced that for Season 2, the game's going to have some sort of medieval theme, so perhaps there's going to be an Aztec theme or something down the road where this style could get re-added back in. Now, all these minigames that had parts scrapped or updated are nice and all, but amongst the gameplay from the early build are also some minigames that, as of right now, have not made it into the game. Firstly, in what looks to be very early development footage, is this minigame involving a very large rolling cylinder. From the footage, it appears that players would have to move and duck into lower areas to avoid the rolling cylinders, and then they would have to keep doing this over and over until reaching the checkered flag thing at the back there. Then from the E3 2019 trailer, it appears that maybe this had been reworked into a minigame involving a spinning brush, but there hasn't been actually any gameplay of this to confirm it. Regardless, this minigame looks like a pretty fun time. I hope this one gets added in. Next is another short bit of footage of this here minigame in which not much else is seen but some obstacles as well as a single fall guy throwing a ball into the hole here. So I guess I can best describe this as some sort of basketball style game. I can only assume it was meant to be a basketball minigame similar in style to Fall Ball. Hopefully if it does ever get added in, it will be better than Fall Ball, which is probably my least favorite game. Now that's all the currently unimplemented minigames that we've seen gameplay footage of, but the E3 2019 trailer also shows off several other minigame ideas, like sliding down a bumpy slide, stealing eggs from a large chicken fella, a game similar to Mario Party 4's Book Squirm, some skateboarding minigame, as well as another minigame that looks similar to Slime Climb. Are these scrapped? Will they get added in? Well, not necessarily, since I haven't been able to find any actual gameplay of these, but this could give us an idea of some minigames that were once planned to be included, or some that may one day still get added in. So those are all the things that were scrapped so far from the prototype builds of the game, so now let's move on to some things left over in the game's files that right now go unused. First, since we mentioned it earlier, files for the pre-alpha build gates are still left over in the game. These include the normal map and ambient occlusion textures, as well as of course the models, which can be seen rendered here. Since these are left over, this just gives fire to my theory that these might get added back in someday. Then similarly, another thing from the early version of Doordash, there's also texture files for the flooring. If you look closely, the flooring does have a similar style to that of the breakable walls. The early version of Fall Mountain we saw earlier also has some content left over. And this is the early white and purple texture for the conveyor belt I mentioned earlier too. Then are some more leftover unused early graphics. First we have this graphic that would have served as the background for the text that would pop up after a minigame to let the player know if they had qualified in a team game. And then this here graphic, which is also unused, would have popped up right below it. Then is what appears to be an early placeholder version of the loading screen, which features just a lone falling guy. At first I thought this might have been the early version of the roulette screen where the next game is chosen, but since it features a falling guy falling, I think it's more likely it's just an early version of the initial screen where the game tries to fill up a lobby. Either way, just like the early crown graphic I mentioned earlier, I gotta say, I really like this art style, so it's a shame this never got implemented more. Alright guys, so post-production Tetra here. After I finished writing the script and everything was basically done, I actually came across some more unused content to cover. Unfortunately, in the interest of time, I have made the decision to make a follow-up video to this one shortly, in which I will cover this stuff. Now the stuff I found is really cool, so if you enjoyed this, you definitely won't want to miss it. When it's done, I'll include a link to it in the card right here. All I gotta say is, I hope you're ready for some unused levels. But that's basically all the goodies for now. I think I also found some skins, like some Portal ones that aren't in the game as I'm making this video, but I think they've already been announced and they might already be released by the time this video goes up. I guess that's the nature of games like these though. Unused content gets added in, content gets removed, and so forth. Like yeah, since the developers intend to cycle in new games in future seasons, I think it's very likely some will get removed as well. Either way, I hope you guys enjoyed this Lost Bits video. If you did, be sure to drop a like down below and check out some more of my Lost Bits videos by clicking or tapping on the card right here. Be sure to subscribe here for more content, swing by my other social media things which are all linked down in the description, and if you want to support the channel, check out my merch over at TetraBitGaming.com, or consider becoming a channel member to get some extra nifty channel perks like being able to use my emotes down in the comments. Now that's pretty cool. Check out the join button below for more information. But as always guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you in a bit.